Reviews. I'm Daniel Goodwin, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. Instead of reviewing an individual tool or going through a product, we're actually going to look at an entire lineup of tools. Mainly the major, as far as I can tell, the major cordless power tool manufacturers. Some very familiar names up here, and maybe some that aren't, but I thought we'd go through them. And I'm going to talk about each one, and I'm going to rank them into these tiers, with A being the top tier, B being just below it, and then C being, no other way to say bottom tier. I'm going to rank each one of these manufacturers based on their lineup according to these criteria. 1, how does each of their tools, their performance and reliability, how do they compare to other competitors' tools? And then the second criteria will be, what is their comprehensive lineup of tools? How extensive is their scope of products? Do they just have kind of the bare basics of a drill, a saw, a light, and a few other things? Or do they have an extended range of tools, from the specialty to various different types of tools that make our lives easier, right? I think that's a very important consideration when we're looking at buying into a power tool lineup. Third criteria is value. Some of these manufacturers are much more expensive than others. There's just no other way around it. Their tools cost a lot more. And if you're not getting better performance and reliability, is it worth that cost? Are you getting a good value out of it? The fourth criteria will be product support and warranty. Warranty being a very important part of it, but also I want to talk a little bit about product support. Are they continuing to develop their tools? Are they pulling out the rug from you on their tools? These are all things that I think are very important. And then lastly, we're going to look at these manufacturers in terms of, are they innovating? Are they adding creativity in their designs? Are they looking at new ways of doing things and making things better? Or are they just producing yet another tool that works just like everybody else's tool and keeping pace with the rest? Those are the criteria we're going to use. I'm going to talk about these tools, manufacturers and their lineup based on my experience, and then I'm going to drop them into the tier where I think they belong. DeWalt has a massive lineup of tools that are all running on their cordless system. They have multiple lineups. They have a 12 volt lineup, as well as their 20 volt max, and as well as their 60 flex volt system. So looking at the criteria we said we're going to rate this against, first of all, how do their tools seem to perform in terms of their competition and their reliability? I'd say on that front, in my experience with the DeWalt tools I've worked with, I think they're very good. They may not lead the pack, they're not maybe setting the top numbers for performance in terms of torque or battery life or whatever you want to measure them on those little ints, but they're always going to be in the top 3 or 4 in just about any tool that you pick. So their performance is definitely top tier. When I come back and I look at these criteria, their performance and reliability, I think they're definitely in the top. They get that. If you look at their platforms, it's very impressive. They have a lot of tools, ranging from the niche to the must-haves that everyone needs in their tool bag. Let's take a look at primarily the 20 volt max system. That's what I'm, is kind of that's the main tier of tools that most manufacturers have, is this 18 to 20 volt system. And, they've got 300 plus products. That's pretty impressive. And you can spend a lot of time going through what they have. But the point is, there's not a lot of there's not gaps. They've got all the main tools and then some. Then the third criteria, let's talk about value. Value is, DeWalt, I think, is very good. Their tools are not cheap, by any means, but they're not the most expensive tools either. They are primarily right in the middle of the road, so I kind of give them an average score on the value. I think that's a fair ranking. And let's move over to product support and warranty. DeWalt is much like a majority of the manufacturers here in that the warranty is good. It's not a lifetime warranty. It's not forever, but it is good, and it's competitive with the market. So again, I would give it an average score on the warranty and the support. They haven't really done anything, to my knowledge, that have really pulled the rug out from under their users, which is good. In particular, their 60 volt flex volt system is, I think, a really good way of handling offering tools that need what do I want to say? They need more power, right? But without kind of like screwing over everyone who bought into their 20 volt system, right? Like they have this flex volt 20 volt battery, 20 volt / 60 volt battery, and I think that's a really good way of handling it personally, better than some of the others. So we'll talk about that soon enough. And then finally, creativity and design and innovation. I don't know that DeWalt is necessarily putting out tools that nobody else has or doing them in a way that nobody else has done before. They do a very well executed design, but they're not leading the way on some of the newer products on the cordless side. So I think they're more of average here as well. So based on all of that, where would I rank the DeWalt? I would probably put them in the okay, that's not going to work so well. Let me bring that forward. Somewhere in the middle, definitely upper tier of B, probably almost into A. And the only thing that's dragging them down is they're not bringing forward new products that others aren't, and their creativity in their design. They're not trying to do anything different there, nor is their value particularly better than anyone else. So those are probably what's dragging them down. They're probably mostly an A tier, to be honest. They're probably more into the A tier than the B, and that's where I put them. All right, let's talk Ridgid. Ridgid has a decent lineup of tools for their 18 volt power tool lineup. I will say there's probably definitely more gaps here than, say, some of the other providers like DeWalt, for example. But they do have some really good tools in this lineup. Really good tools. In fact, tools that some of the bigger, more established players still don't have. For example, their framing nailers and their 16 gauge finish nailer. Like, those are really good tools that it's disappointing that Makita hasn't produced something like that yet. So they really have a lot here. You're not going to have some of the more niche tools like I don't know, like Milwaukee's new microwave, for example, or Makita's microwave. Those kind of weird ones. But they've got all your basic needs. They've got as well some niche like drywall and a caulking gun, and they've got some cool stuff. They got a 7-inch dual angle grinder. I mean, that's pretty impressive, and a planer and a belt sander. A lot of things to like here in their lineup, and their value is really good compared to all the other, maybe not all the others, but to a lot of the others. Their value, these tools are always cheaper. Like whether it's the drill, whether it's the saw, whether it's whatever, it's going to be cheaper than a Makita or a Milwaukee or DeWalt or a Bosch, right? Like all these tools are going to be cheaper than those. And you can be a lot cheaper if you use something like directtools.com to get factory reconditioned versions. You're going to save, 50% or more. It's incredible how appealing these tools can look when you are using some of those sites to get them, right? So where would I rank them? Let's switch over. I think they're going to be a B tier, and the reason for that is mostly because of their limited lineup compared to the others. You know, they don't have 300 tools like DeWalt does. Um, they don't necessarily have a lot of creativity and innovation, but they do produce just really good tools that just work. Very satisfied with every rigid tool I've used. It just does what it's supposed to do. It may not be fancy, but it works. They have probably the best or second best warranty in the business with their lifetime guarantee. You know, Makita doesn't have that. Milwaukee doesn't have that. Really, only Craftsman has that, or has something similar to that. So really, really good system. I would say, you know, it's close to being an A, and really the things holding them back is they need more tools and a more extensive lineup. They don't have the heavy voltage. It's all the 18 volt lineup. They don't have a 40 or a 60 volt lineup like some of the other brands. Next up, Milwaukee. Very, very extensive lineup, both in their 12 volt system. In fact, they probably have the most extensive 12 volt system of all the manufacturers. It's very impressive. I mean, look at all the tools they've got in the 12 volt. And those 12 volt tools perform really, really well, like well enough that you, many cases, don't need an 18 volt equivalent of them. So that's very, very cool. They also have an extremely extensive 18 volt system. So from a comprehensive lineup, huge, absolutely huge. Probably one of the most, if not the most. As far as performance and reliability, Milwaukee usually is setting the benchmarks. You know, whether it's, again, drills, saws, whatever, their tools are usually either the top one or the top two in almost all cases, wherever they're matched up against. The other thing that they've done a decent job of is using how to adapt those heavier use cases. And you know, they're still obviously moving forward with that, so I want to reserve judgment on that a little bit. I'll just talk mostly about their 18 volt lineup, which is, as I said, extensive. As far as value, they are expensive, and that's what happens when you're considered one of the best. You command a premium, and I think in Milwaukee's case, it's justified. I've never had one of their tools where I thought, like, geez, you know, this is not giving me the performance I wanted. I think they take a lot of pride in what they do, and they are innovative. They are one of the producers of tools that others are not producing. You know, they're bringing out, and maybe they're not all hits, but they're bringing out things like a cordless microwave. They're bringing out things like a cordless power station where you plug in your batteries and you've got, you know, 110 outlets on tap. They're just thinking outside the box, which is what you want once you bought into a lineup. You may not need to buy all the tools they offer, but you want to know that they have tools that you may want to pick up at some point. You want to see that those tools are coming out, and Milwaukee's doing that. You know, they've got several different vacuums now. They've got a really cool shop vac system where you can swap out bends and everything, and it's very impressive. There's just a lot to like. So where do I rank Milwaukee? It's a solid top tier. Top tier. Milwaukee is a top tier. Absolutely belongs all the way. And really, the only negative is that it is a bit pricey, but you get the value, or you get the performance you expect at that price. The tool system that I have the most experience with, I bought into it 12 years ago probably, and I've stayed with them through thick and thin. I know the good and the bad, and I want to talk about both. First is they have a broad lineup. As you can see, they have both a 40 volt, actually / 80 volt max system, and they have an 18 volt / 36 volt, as well as a 12 volt line. We'll talk first about their performance. I've never been disappointed in any of my Makita tools. All of them have performed well. I haven't ever had one fail on me or have a problem. The tools I bought 12, 13 years ago still work today. I still use them. They are absolutely rock solid reliable. That's a positive. In terms of value, I will say this is a mixed bag. In the 18 volt lineup, I think it's a decent value considering that you're getting such good performance and reliability. The prices I think are reasonable most of the time in the 18 volt lineup. On the 40 volt lineup, I would say the pricing is I don't want to say outrageous, but it's very very expensive. And I know they kind of market it as for professionals, and I understand that. But when you're looking at a single tool running $800, $1,000, and it's not a tool that's, it doesn't feel like that's a good value. So I can't give them a good score on value, at least not in the XGT lineup. And so that's one thing I want to say. The other thing, as far as product support and warranty, their warranty is fine. It's okay. Their product support, I am very disappointed in Makita on a number of things. First is, they mentioned this 12 volt lineup. Well, this is actually the second 12 volt lineup that they had. Many of us might remember several years ago they rolled out a 12 volt system that looked a lot like the Milwaukee 12 volt system with kind of a cylinder battery. And we kind of bought into it. We got excited about it. Yeah, the 12 volt system's great. Well, they pulled the rug out from under us. They just axed that whole lineup and then brought out this brand new, different 12 volt lineup. And it's like, what the heck? We're just out here blowing in the wind. They just hosed us. And they've kind of done the same with the LXT lineup in that they started coming out with all these tools. They said, oh, you can power them with two 18 volt batteries. You got the 36 volt together, and it'll be this our high performance line. And we're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And we start buying into those. And then they're like, no, actually, we want to come out with a 40 volt lineup. And then they started coming out with the XGT lineup. And again, the XGT is a phenomenal lineup in terms of performance and everything. But it's like, what the heck did you guys just do to us with the 36 volt teaser? And then they're not really releasing new 36 volt tools, and now they're releasing like 80 volt tools that use two of these 40 volt batteries. It's you really feel like you got played a little bit as a Makita customer, and that's not a good feeling. So I say all that to say, where would I rank Makita? Well, in terms of performance and reliability, let me see if I can get better at this. In terms of performance and reliability, they're here. In terms of creativity and comprehensive lineup, they're here. In terms of support and kind of practices and how they treated their customers, they're probably more down here actually. But I think the creativity and just the value that you're getting, they're probably going to be top of the B and inching into A. But their practices really screwed over a lot of people. Okay, let me go to Ryobi because I hate Ryobi. I've talked about this before, but before I purchased into Makita, I had Ryobi tools. And every single one of my Ryobi tools died, broke on me within a year of having them. It was terrible. It was the worst. It's when I realized that you only pay once for quality, but you pay over and over again for poor, shoddy workmanship. Now, I said that, and I will say I think Ryobi has improved their quality, I would hope. I don't know how they could have gotten worse, to be honest. But I don't treat them very seriously if you are certainly if you're a professional contractor, or even if you're a serious handyman. I don't think I could recommend that you buy into Ryobi, even with their innovation and improvement. I will switch over and I will look at their tool lineup here just for completeness. I will say this. All right, there's one positive thing that I can say about Ryobi, and that is they launch so many products in their power lineup. The 18 volt, now they've launched a 40 volt. They are always coming out with new tools, new ideas. They do come up with creative ideas. I think they were the very first one to come out with a reciprocating saw where the battery was centered in the middle for weight balance. That's a great idea. Wasn't a good tool, but it's a great idea. They come up with a lot of very innovative ideas. They just don't really like build them to what I would consider true contractor grade, and that's where they really fall down. But they're always coming out with new tools, and I think they were the first to come out with cordless sprayers and just all kinds of neat tools that, if they worked really well, would be great for all of us. So, I will give them that positive. Where do they rank? Well, in terms of comprehensive lineup, yeah, they're top tier. In terms of creativity, yeah, they're coming out with new products all the time. In terms of reliability, here. In terms of value, yeah, they're back up there. But I think that for me personally, their reliability issues are so bad, and this is just based on my experience through the years. I consider them maybe a kind of a top C inching into B. Bosch. All right, good German company, Bosch. They definitely have a reputation of being a tool for professional contractors. I concur with that. I will say that they have a decent 18-volt system, with a lot of different tools within that, and they have a decent 12-volt system. They don't have a kind of a heavier system than that, and there are gaps in their lineup. While they have a lot of good tools that you need and would use, there are many gaps. They don't have framing nailers. They don't have crown staplers. They don't have, some of the newer tools that they don't have an outdoor power tool, power equipment lineup like Milwaukee and Makita and DeWalt. They're it's just a little more limited. They're not carried in as many stores either for a lot of Americans. But if you do go and buy into the Bosch lineup, I don't think you'll be disappointed whatsoever in the quality of their tools. You will be very pleased with that. They do that well. In terms of, again, a comprehensive lineup, I think they're a little lacking. They do have some niche things which are good, but they just are missing a little bit to have a complete lineup. And so because of that, where would I rank them? I would rank them in terms of performance and value there, probably in the top tier. In terms of cost, our value in terms of cost, probably more like in the B. In terms of comprehensive lineup, more in the B. In terms of product support, again, just all these things kind of they're more in the average side. So I think they're more of a solid B to me. I would, here in the States anyway, I would definitely recommend buying into probably both DeWalt and Milwaukee over Bosch. That's just my opinion. All right, I got to speed this up. I can't go through everybody's lineup because it's just taken far too long. Craftsman, definitely a well-known name. I think that now that they're in the hands of Stanley, that's good for their lineup, but it's not necessarily good for their overall reputation. It's not like Stanley's known for producing amazing tools. But I think they do have a decent lineup, and they're continuing to bring out more tools. They have a very good warranty. Of course, that's what everybody talks about when you talk about Craftsman, is that warranty that stands behind it, and that's Stanley's brought that forward, which is good. Where would I rank them? Well, they're not here. They're probably not even here. They're probably going to be kind of sitting alongside Ryobi, but little less than Ryobi because they don't have the lineup that Ryobi does. They're still building out their lineup even now. And they'll probably never catch up with Ryobi because Ryobi just seems to be coming out with a tool every other day. All right, I just got to speed this up because it is taking so long. Metabow, also formerly known as Tachi or Hilti, not so popular here in the States. You certainly can get their tools, but you're going to have to look to get their tools. and I think it's probably not because of that. I don't think I could really, I couldn't recommend them just because it's very hard to get your hands on them. They don't seem to have a very extensive lineup. I know that they're good quality. I used to have, when they were still Hitachi, I had a number of their, I think it was their 12-volt lineup, and it's quite good. But I just don't feel that compared to the others that they have the product lineup to compare. So Metabo probably is going to be sitting in over here in the B, probably lower B. I mean, they don't even have the lineup that Bosch does, so, or Ridgid. So again, it's not that they don't produce good tools; they clearly do. It's just you need a broad lineup. All right, I'll go to the last, Porter Cable. Porter Cable makes good tools. I've used a few of them. I got so many tabs open. I got to figure out where. Here it is. Yeah, Porter Cable. Here, they do make good tools. They don't have a super extensive lineup. The ones they have are a bit bulky, and I would consider them definitely below some of the others that we've talked about. I just, again, everyone can form their own opinion, but they're just not enough, particularly in their 20-volt lineup, to say that I would ever recommend purchasing into them. I think they're definitely down in the C tier as well. And lastly, Hart, you can purchase these at Walmart. Yeah, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I'm just going to say that they're definitely in the bottom C tier. So there's probably a few I didn't cover. I know Cobalt was one. I'm not really covering them because it doesn't seem like they're innovating or bringing forward any new tools to their lineup. And I feel like Lowe's is probably going to drop them now that they're carrying Craftsman and Ego. So I don't think they're going to really keep going forward with the Cobalt power tools. They might go forward with their hand tools. That's my opinion. We covered a lot here. Might have been a few we should have covered but didn't. But I would say this is where I'd place them. And overall, if you look at this, I'd say Milwaukee's a little higher. That's just, if I were buying into a system today and I didn't have a system already, Milwaukee's definitely one I would go into if money wasn't an object. If DeWalt, followed very closely by DeWalt, I mean very closely. And then if I wanted a good value, where I wanted a good lineup of tools, but I didn't want to invest a fortune, definitely Ridgid gets my play. And then probably somewhere in between all of those is Makita. These four are ones that I would feel very comfortable recommending to anyone, but for different use cases. Milwaukee is the one that I just recommend hands down. Doesn't matter whether you're a contractor or a homeowner or whatever. I just think you'll be very pleased with what you have. Ridgid's something I would recommend to someone who's budget conscious, and then DeWalt and Makita I would recommend as kind of like certainly fine options either way.